Okay, now we are in open session for our Lucan Biddulph Council meeting for Tuesday, September 5th. For those of you that are joining us via YouTube, Council is just reconvening after a closed session, and we do have a motion coming out of that session. So I would ask for a mover and a seconder for the following motion, that Council receive report number CL-08-2023 for information and direct staff to proceed with an agreement for integrity commissioner services with Aird Bearless LLP. A mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Westman and Councillor Regan, all in favor, and that's carried. Okay, and again, for those of you that are just watching, we had opened the meeting. There is no disclosure of pecuniary interest from anybody on council today. So it's September, and I know you're all saying, where did August go? Although today, I have to say, I told Councillor Hodgins, I think I was crying on the way here because it was like the perfect pool day and day to work out in the garden. So, but here we are in September, returning to routine. So Sunday, St. James Anglican Church held their annual decoration service for St. James Cemetery. And at the service, the replaced stone for Green Thurman and Annie Butler was dedicated. So Green Thurman is considered to have been the last runaway slave who came to Lucan. Thurman came to Canada from Franklin County, Missouri. And we know that often slaves took on their owner's name, and this was the case as his owner's name was Benjamin Thurman. And this slave owner owned Green's grandfather, mother, and his siblings. And as far as treatment, Green was considered to have been treated very well for a slave. And it was not until Benjamin Thurman sold Green's mother, sister, and brother that Green decided to escape Missouri and find freedom outside of where he was. He was fearful that the same thing was going to happen to him. He did not see his mother or brother again. It was not an easy journey for him, but eventually he found his way to Canada and he settled in Blanchard Township. And so, of course, that is Perth South over Granton Way. And he was a farm laborer there for many years. In 1860, he settled in Lucan, where he lived for the rest of his life. And he married Peter Butler's daughter, Annie, and together they had 10 children. The picture that Lisa's got up on the screen right now, you'll recognize Pastor Steve Green from St. James, but also with Steve is Marlene Thornton. And of course, she is, I think she said she's an aunt, or I'm sorry, she would be a niece of Annie and Green. In 1878, okay, where am I here? So the home of Green Thurman is at the corner of Saintsbury and Wellington, the southeast corner. That's where they lived and raised their children. In 1878, he returned to Missouri for a trip, feeling that it was now safe to do so. And incredibly, as he was walking along the streets of his hometown, a woman was walking the street as well, and it turned out to be his long-lost sister who had been sold years and years ago. They emotionally reunited, thinking that that day would never happen, that they would see each other again. He was interviewed in 1924, and the reporter concluded that the former slave is always sure of hearty handshakes and cordial welcome of his many friends who look upon him as one who has most credibly done his share of the world's work. And so Green lived in Lucan for the rest of his life until he passed away in 1926. The original headstone for Green Thurman was damaged due to age. And you will recall that in 2022, council committed to the replacement of the stone. Green Thurman's story, like so many slaves who fortunately made their way to safety in Canada, is a story to be remembered and reflected upon today. And I know I speak for council that I'm certainly thrilled that we were able to make this commitment to replace the stone when we did. Okay, we do not have to go, we have no, I'm sorry, we have no public meeting. We don't have any delegations, so we will move right into the minutes in front of us. And we have the set of minutes for August 8th in front of us. And if nothing needs to be amended, I'd ask for a mover and a seconder to approve those as circulated. Councillor Regan and Councillor Hodgins, all in favor, and that's carried. I don't think that there was anything added to the business arising, and I would ask council if there was anything that they wanted added from the previous minutes. In the correspondence, we've received a number of items, but one item in particular has been pulled by staff, and I guess I would look to Ron to speak to this. It is a letter that came from the announcement that was made at AMO about the Building Faster Fund. And Ron, did you want to speak to it?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. So the date on the letter is August 22nd, and again, as the mayor noted, that was made during the recent AMO conference in London. The Building Faster Fund is being established by the province of Ontario. It's got it will be a $1.2 billion program spread over 3 years. Of that 1.2 billion, 10% of the overall funding will be set aside for small, rural, and northern communities that have not been assigned a formal housing target by the province. So with that news, you know, you're looking at $400 million a year. So 10% of 400 million is $40 million. I would think, being one of the fastest growing communities in Ontario, we would be, if not at the top of the list, very close to the top of the list. So I'm feeling pretty good about this. We haven't seen the details yet. I did have the treasurer, Catherine, was gracious enough today to try and find out any information she could on the Building Faster Fund. The applications haven't been released yet, so there's no further details at this point in time. But we do have our ear to the ground, and we will jump on this as soon as we can.
Okay, thanks very much for that, Ron. Any comments from council on that correspondence? With that, there were a number of other items that were received. Did council want to speak to any of those, to pull to any of those items? Councillor Hodgins.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And there were a lot of correspondence here. I just want to highlight number 6 there from the Asabo Bayfield Conservation Authority. They've got a public notice of consultation. They're going through a new watershed-based resource management strategy, which is a broad overarching document, business plan that's required to the new Conservation Authority Act. There is a public consultation webpage with some information about the document and survey, and feedback is being received on the document until next Friday, the 15th. So I would encourage my colleagues around the table to take a look at that. And there were 1 or 2 other items that I was going to just mention that caught my eye. Number 11 was the notice of study commencement for Highway 4 from Elginfield to Exeter, and just thought I'd pull this one, make sure everyone's aware of it, because it is going right through our municipality, and it looks like the Ministry of Transportation is taking formal comments. So I wanted to ask whether the municipality would be providing any formal comments on this to the ministry by the deadline of September 16th. I'm thinking particularly like maybe the area of Clandeboye or areas where we may have become aware of safety concerns, or where there could maybe be improvements to that highway to help people traveling through the municipality. And another thing they mentioned on this notice was that they will be doing modification or removal of entrances to the highway in accordance with their access management principles. So it could be something that affects our residents of our municipality if they're having if they have multiple accesses, and it might be reduced to 1. So I just hope that this notice has gone out to all the adjacent property owners. And if there's anything that we can do as the municipality to participate in this consultation process, then I would encourage that as well.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Hodgins. Ron, did you want to speak to that?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Jeff Little, our Public Works Manager, is on holidays this week, so he's not in attendance, but if he was, I would expect he would say that he will be participating in this process quite to a large degree, because I think we would want to have a look at our main street. It's part of the connecting link. If there's any work to be done or any work that should be done on our connecting link, when they're going to be upgrading that section of Highway 4 from Elginfield right through to Exeter, that would be probably the most appropriate time to get that work done as well. So there will be some communication between Jeff's office and the MTO as well. So I do expect further information coming forward to council on that.
Okay, thank you for that. Just as follow-up to a comment that Councillor Hodgins made, do we know what, I mean, it's not our responsibility to make sure that this is circulated, but do we know how this document is circulated to like any property owners along Highway 4?
Through you, Madam Mayor, I'm not aware of what their process is for advertising. It may simply be a notice in the paper. So, hopefully we can get the word out that this is coming, and for those people to basically take an active role in any meetings that may arise, or open houses or things like that the MTO might have. So,
Lisa, is there a way that you could at least share that PDF on social media? Okay, perfect. Anything else?
There was one more item, and it's kind of related. It was item number 12 on the list, the resolution from South Huron, and it was correspondence received from a resident of South Huron, but it's about the intersection of Highway 4 and Wayland Line, and they had some safety concerns. This was sent to our municipality, the correspondence from the resident, so I think it's we should just make sure that we are reviewing these safety concerns, and it has to do with, I think, getting rumble strips installed on Wayland Line for the approach to Highway 4, just noting that there has been accidents there in the past. So if that's, I guess, a boundary road between municipalities, maybe, I'm not sure if that's under our jurisdiction or South Huron's or counties, but just wondering if that's being looked into, potential improvements there.
Ron, did you want to speak to that one?
yeah, so what I would suggest is that correspondence can be forwarded to Chris Trainey. It's the Wayland Line is now the county responsibility. So we can basically bring this letter to his attention if he hasn't already seen it. But we can certainly make sure he gets a copy of this letter.
I think that they are on circulation, but certainly I can follow up with Chris at the county just to see. I mean, that road just got improved a few years ago. I'm also wondering if, I mean, obviously both sides of Wayland, but I'm also wondering if she's more concerned about the other side. There's more residents on the Huron side, right, than our side. So, but I'll certainly follow up with Chris Trainey on that. Anything else? Any other items that council wanted pulled for discussion? Okay, if not, then I would ask for a mover and a seconder to receive those items for information, please. Councillor Regan and Councillor Hodgins, all in favor, and that's carried. Okay, on to committee reports. Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, we had a meeting, a few things to note. They're having employee issues again, retaining employees. So we may see sometimes our blue box and garbage picked up later as people are doing double runs. So it may not be consistent, but they will complete the task. It just may be later in the day. So it's just to be of note. Also, the what we budgeted for revenue for recyclables is still below what we did budget for revenue, but it's probably about 5-10% lower, but it's slowly going up. I think that was an interesting note, was just the producers of non-alcohol beverages are looking at a deposit return in Ontario, so that they won't be responsible for the program if they obviously offer a deposit on the containers. Quebec had done that. So the concern on that is they were going to be a high contributor to the program, obviously. But if they offer a deposit, then they won't be contributing to the process and the funding to do the recycling. So that could be interesting how that all looks and turns out. But just an interesting note, just the 50% of the beverage containers in Ontario go into landfill, and they estimate 1.7 billion bottles go to landfill of bottles. So it is, they're hoping that offering a deposit, that obviously it would, mitigate that going to landfill. But also another concern though would be running the program, obviously, if they pull out. So anyways, it'll be interesting as that all evolves. So that's all.
Any questions on Blue Water? Okay, CEDC.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. If I may, we had a meeting July 25th. There's a couple of items of note. Lisa brought forward a number of local submissions with respect to the street pole banner program. We had quite a number of submissions for that, and then residents were encouraged to submit drawings of what Lucan Biddulph meant to them. The committee reviewed that, and we talked a little bit about what that all would look like, how they would be displayed, and Lisa is going to be developing some more of that and coming back to our next meeting, which is September 27th. So that's all I have to report on that, Madam Mayor.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Reagan. Any questions on that? Okay, Lake Huron, we don't meet until October. Nothing from fire boards and nothing else to add from ABCA. Great. Parks and Recreation.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. There are a couple of items of note just to go over. So the meeting was held, August 24th. We talked a little bit about the Youth Advisory Committee recruitment to sort of have a subcommittee of PRAC. We're trying to encourage young people. I think it's grade. I think we are looking at up to grade. Help me, Paul. Up to grade 12, 7 to 12. Sorry, up to 7 to 12. And PRAC was encouraging anyone interested in youth advisory to contact the Lucan Community Center, and that's through Abby. Paul gave us a report on the Spencer Park multi-use park equipment. They're setting that up for tennis on Saturdays or Sundays, Mondays, and pickleball played on Tuesdays to Saturdays for the time being. Abby gave an update on Learning in Lucan senior workshops, talked about some of the programs that will be coming up, and the fact that we had a grant for that. And Abby also gave us a summer update and explained just how successful we were. The Lucan pool was extremely popular. We had a lot of different service groups using the pool, and it was, again, a huge success. And that is about it for that. Our next meeting is October 26th, Madam Mayor.
All right, thank you for that. Any questions on Parks and Rec? Okay. On to staff reports. Ron. You're muted.
Sorry
It
about that.
wouldn't be a Zoom without saying that.
I'm not usually the one on Zoom, so anyway, I apologize. Just one quick update on the fire services master plan. I do have the first draft of the fire services master plan in hand. The mayor and I are reviewing it. We will be having a Zoom call with Bear Integrated Technologies to review that next Tuesday, after which there will be a joint meeting with the chiefs and the chairs of both fire boards, and then it will be brought to council. So I'm thinking at this point it will be coming to council on the first meeting in October. I believe that's October 3rd. So that's our goal, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in detail with the chiefs and the chairs. So, and that's all I have.
Okay, thank you for that, Ron. Tina.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor, I just have one report to bring forward tonight, and that's regarding a video surveillance policy. Recently, we have prepared some new signage for municipal buildings, namely the community center. And with that, just a little bit of housekeeping to go along with that, and bringing forward a policy that supports video surveillance. The policy covers all municipal owned buildings, so any building that does house video surveillance will be required to post these signs. There was certain requirements under the act that the signs are required to have, which we've done. The signs have been prepared by Track 21 and delivered to the community center, and as well as one of the fire hall. It will be posted there as well. Like I said, the policy is generic, so it'll cover any buildings, and the signs were generic as well and can be used at any building that requires that. There was a little bit of impact to budget with the cost of the signs. Other than that, there's no impact. So any questions?
Okay, thank you. Questions? Councillor Hodgins.
Thanks, Madam Mayor, through you. So do these signs get installed in all locations where there's cameras? I just saw like the policy says where the cameras are not visible, we shall install the signs. But where the cameras obviously visible, do the signs not go up?
I think it's our intention to install them at every entrance to the buildings. Can maybe get Paul to elaborate on that if he wants to.
Through you, Madam Mayor. So yes, it goes up at every entrance. So as you're entering the facility, you're aware, as well as there's some located on exteriors of the building. So, you know, not only is it good for us as a just good practice, but it also deters any vandalism or theft, because they are more aware that they're under video surveillance.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions or comments from council? Deputy Mayor Manders.
Would you like, so that like at the park, will it be one looking out towards the pavilion, and maybe Jeff Little's not here, but will we look at then adding them now with this policy to see if we can get it from the Public Works Department towards the leaf collection and stuff like that, in case we feel people are dumping, like Tina had mentioned that there's no change to budget other than the signs, but so in these areas, there's already cameras there. That kind of caught me off guard.
I'll let Ron.
If I may, Madam Mayor, I'll try and answer that one. So at the present time, the signs are only going up in the locations where there are cameras. So the policy is generic enough that should council in conjunction with the department, such as the Public Works Department, wish to put up cameras, this policy will cover that scenario. So at this point in time, the budget is only impacted to the extent that signage had to be done. Okay, so if council and staff decide that more video surveillance equipment is required in other locations, then that will have a further impact on budget, but we can discuss that at that point in time.
Okay, no, very good. No, yeah, I certainly would like us to entertain that. It seems like it's got more reasonable, that I think we should have it at all our facilities and any of the properties that we own. The ratepayers. Thanks.
Okay, any other comments or questions? Okay, with that, then there is a motion in front of you to receive that report, and that council adopts corporate policy number 102-09-2023. A mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Westman and Councillor Hodgins. All in favor? And that's carried. And did you have anything verbal, Tina?
I do just thought I'd mention there are some bylaws included later tonight for passing. The first one is the annual bylaw to authorize execution of the agreement with Integrated Maintenance and Operation Services for winter maintenance. There was a slight increase from last year in cost there, and that's due to inflation and CPI. It was a difference of $459. So there is a bylaw included for that agreement. Again, it runs the same period of time, November 1st to April. And then there's also a bylaw included for a zoning bylaw amendment for the property at 112 Kent Avenue, which we had previously approved in principle, and we're waiting on a reference plan survey to be completed, which has been done. So the bylaw is being brought forward now to pass. And other than that, I do not have any verbals.
Okay, thanks, Tina. Any questions on that? Okay, moving on, no building, finance, Catherine, did you have anything? Okay, planning, no public works. Paul, Parks.
Thank you, through Madam Mayor. Just a quick verbal this evening, and this is regards with some of the comments and questions we've had brought up. As you know, the facility's been open now for a couple months, and we've had a lot of usage. And we're opening up into hockey seasons, just regarding maintaining the cleanliness of the facility and making sure we're keeping up to the standards that we're hoping for a brand new facility to be at. We have had 4 companies come through, cleaning companies, to look at the facility and the space and see what our requirements are based on our usage. And based upon that, they have recommended it would be reasonable for us to wanting to look at 5 shifts a week with an average of 4 to 5 hours each shift to maintain those cleaning services. And based on this, an RFP is created to be released this week, as we're hoping to have official report to council, the next council meeting, regarding what those prices come back at and what those services will look like. We have as well, if it's not favorable, we've also procured some job descriptions from neighboring municipalities of janitorial services as employees, as another option for council to explore if the presentation is not favorable. As well as we've addressed with the Tonda construction on some issues that appear to be dirt or stains, but they're actually due to construction that they're in the requirement to remove from the facility. So we're getting that completed through them, as well as we've addressed with staff now that we're focusing inside for the year, that we need to really address our focus to the facility. So that's our plan coming forward for right now, and just a timeline for council if they're addressed these questions.
Okay, thanks, Paul. Questions or comments on that? Councillor Regan.
If I may, just for clarification. So just hypothetically, if you have a company that comes in that does 5 shifts a week, 4 to 5 hours each shift, so 25 hours a week, were you also suggesting that you change the job descriptions of the employees so that they also clean? So you've got the cleaning company doing 20 hours a week, and you've got some of our employees doing some of the cleaning as well? Or is it just one or the other? Just want to be clear.
Through you, Madam Mayor. No, for clarification, the operator's job description always includes cleaning, still will maintain
Okay.
cleaning. It's the cleaning that they can facilitate while the building's occupied, you know, the stand, going through the stands, cleaning the change rooms. We also will be having signage in all the washrooms of the facility to show inspections of the facilities, make sure they're kept up, as well as an important issue that we thought, because communication is the key, that on those signage, it's going to provide residents coming to our facility a way to connect the proper complaint with the proper departments to ensure that, you know, they're being heard and they know where that they can go talk to someone if they find the facility not in a desirable state. So the other option that we are discussing, that is, if the proposals come back and it's way above what we had discussed at budget time, what we thought would be a good avenue to look at for a cleaning service. The other option would be to look at hiring a person who's strictly janitorial services. That would fall inside that budget.
Great. Okay. Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Deputy Mayor Manders.
Yeah, whether it be 2 part-time students, a full-time person, or whether it be contracted out, makes no difference to me as long as you're achieving your objective. But I'm concerned at the timing. So I don't know if your plan is to have part-time staff maybe, or have overtime or what, even though we're, say, going into the season here slowly, you know, what you just said would, I'm assuming, would take 4 weeks or so to get ramped up, or whether we hired an employee or whether the RFP or anything like that. And again, whether it's 2 teams or 4 teams a day using it, it still boils down to every stall door has to be opened, every sink has to be looked at. The facility's open, so it makes no difference. Every garbage can has to be looked at. So the facility's open, being used. You know, it can go for obviously 5 days with it being a slower maybe use, to all of a sudden, you know, one stall being empty. So that's, I wanted to make that comment. That's a concern because it doesn't really change as of today. Today in January, the doors all got to be open, that need to be cleaned or looked at. So.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? So just to clarify on the timeline, the RFP, when is that going out and when are you, and then I guess your idea is that it's going to be a really quick turnaround. So the results of that RFP would be brought to council 2 weeks from now.
Yes, that is a proposal based on the 4 companies that have already come through the facility. It should be a very easy quotation for them to develop for us. And we were trying to make sure everything's exactly the same, what our requirements are. And it should be a very easy process for them to have an answer.
And you got the RFP written up?
Yeah.
Okay. And there's not anything that like ties our hands to, like you can do an RFP in that short turnaround. You don't have to put it out for any other great, like a specific amount of time. It doesn't matter.
I'll clarify with the county procurement specialist, but as far as we're aware that it is allowed, but we will clarify.
All right, thanks. All right, any other questions? All right, then I guess that's it. Did you have anything else verbal? Paul?
Just one bit of good news. We've our fitness space manager has already started promoting the fitness space at the Lucan Biddulph Community Center, and the uptake to the interest polls that he's put online for memberships has been very positive. He's very happy with the results from his business experience. He says if the 25 to 50% of the people that have said they're interested are actually interested, we are off to a very good start for our fitness space. So he's quite happy with that.
Excellent. Very good. Very good. Any questions or anything? Just wondering about the soccer fields. Are you on track for what we, have been talking about for the last little bit on the condition of those?
Yes, and we have one final meeting tomorrow to finalize a few issues, but we are right on track as far as we're concerned.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that. Economic development.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a quick couple of updates on our mobile app. We should be loading content on that later this week into next week. So we're on track for hopefully mid to late September launch date for that application. We tried our first night market at the municipal lot in August. It went over, we had the farmers market come up. It was very well attended. So it was a good first pilot project to kind of see what, people were interested in. And it was a fantastic night. Weather was good. So we couldn't have asked for a better night for that. And I think the vendors were happy as well. I recently attended AMO on behalf of Ron Raymer, and I was excited to attend a session from Elections Ontario. So as of January, they will be taking over our electors list, which is fantastic news. It's opening up a lot of things for us about how we're editing and where the data is coming from, how quickly the data is being added to the electors list. And actually, when we pull that final electors list down, it's now being left up to the actual clerk's department to determine that date. So it's a wonderful new change for elections, and fingers crossed in 2026 it will be a much better electors list. So just wanted to mention that it was a really great session anyway. And that's it. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Okay, thanks, Lisa. Councillor comments. Councillor Regan, then Councillor West.
All right. Sorry, it was seniority. I just wanted to make sure. So for 2 things, so just about the night market that we had, had 2 business owners approach me, and they were really happy. They were really busy. they said, let's do it again if we can. It was extremely successful. So I just thought it was, they thought it was wonderful. I was there. I thought it was wonderful as well. And I just was going to mention as well, I believe the fireman's breakfast is Sunday, 7:30 till noon. Just want to remind everybody about that. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Excellent. Counselor Westman.
Yeah, just want to say, I, along with the rest of council, attended AMO, found it very, very informative, had really good experiences in some of the sessions. Good information to take back and use every day. I've been kind of busy myself with the Upper Thames River Conservation Authority and the Asable Bayfield. As a former board member, I stay in touch and keep connected, and I was able to attend the annual turtle release on the 31st, and it was very well attended. A lot of good information, a lot of good boosts there with people providing information to the kids and mums and dads that were there. I was there with my personal presentation. I do a science and astronomy outreach program, which I was able to present there. And I was also at the Upper Thames River facility in Wildwood doing an evening of astronomy last weekend. It was very well attended. So post-COVID, a lot of the programs are resuming with the conservation authorities, and their staff are just amazing. They're just outstanding people. That the turtle release on its own is a huge undertaking. They'll go out into the natural environment, collect turtle eggs, identify them by species, gestate them, hatch them, rear the babies to a point where they're sustainable, where they can actually go out into the natural environment and survive on their own. And then they hold a public release where they release a few turtles into Morrison Dam, but they also go out into the watershed and release the turtles in a very calculated way. So they release them where they're needed, where the species are going to flourish and do well. And they are very careful to put the turtles out in groupings where they have the best chance of genetic diversity. So you're not putting the same family of turtles in the same area. They mix them around a bit. It's very well calculated, very well implemented, and it's quite an undertaking. And because of their efforts over the last many years, they've restored a lot of at-risk species in the area to a viable, sustainable population. So it's a pretty amazing thing, and I'm really very quite honored to have been a part of any of it. So it's been a good last little while with the conservation authorities doing some really good work. Obviously, this time of year they're focusing on tree planting, and you know, obviously the watersheds have been under a lot of strain this year with heavy rainfalls and what have you. So staff has been very busy, but it's been great, and you know, I'm glad to be a part of it. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much for that, Alex. Any other councillor comments? Deputy Mayor Manders.
Since Catherine's here, I'll bring up something on finance. The we had talked about it at budget time on postage and envelopes and potentially adding a charge to those that choose not to have auto deposit or do email billing. And as I continue to open my mail, since there's no charge and not get it changed, I'm a good example of maybe why we should look at this too. But you know, it seemed like yourself and Tracy, you know, like the idea. It's amazing. I felt it was surprising how much time it takes with the envelopes, postage, and the mailing compared to those that don't do that. So I don't know what the rest of council thinks of that, or whether it be a budget discussion, or whether we start eventually, or we see what other neighbor municipalities do. But certainly you see a lot of billings, whether it be TELUS or Bell or these different companies are doing that. I brought up the point at budget that some people talk about, well, there's maybe not access to the internet for them to do that. We have the library, and whether it be seniors or not, there would be an opportunity obviously to work with either loved ones or families, or again, the library. I mean, it's incredible. We asked them to vote by internet only and not by paper. We got to remember that. That's how we asked them to vote. So I think asking them to pay their bills that way is not, that's why we're around here, is simply by electronic only. They have to get to a computer. So anyways, again, it's a large expense to our township, and I think it's something we should consider.
I know we talked about that at around budget time as well. And I know we've done some pushes in ways we have to say, hey, and educate people more on how they can sign up for email delivery. So we have had a huge response to that. So we do have a lot more people receiving their bills by email. We also have a lot of people that refuse to do that. I don't know. I guess I have to, maybe if we want to do a little survey, if people wanted, if they would, what the feeling would be like, pay for that, right, that service, or I can go around and ask what others do. I'm not aware that other municipalities charge for that. We do charge $5 if they want an additional statement, but we definitely could do some research and bring a report back if that's what council would like to entertain that idea.
I do think, there should be a postage and handling fee for these bills when there's other alternatives, even if it's too, and really what the true expense is might catch your attention, but even if it's a couple bucks. And my thought was even to have it on the bill as a charge and a credit, saying that, or, that this is going to come forward in June of 2024, lots of notice to change your habits. But I think it would be interesting, maybe part of a survey what the community thinks, because I'm sure those that are doing it, getting it by via internet, I'm sure that they would sooner not be paying for those that choose not to. So
I wonder, I do think it should be a budget discussion. And I think you've set the tone for bringing it up at budget. I wonder though, if the thought is to do a public survey, if we also do find out if some of our neighbors are already doing that, because that can be used as part of the language, but I do think, because you are right, Deputy Mayor, that we did discuss it at budget. So it would be good to follow up on that. Okay. Any other comments? I just had a couple. I did want to touch on AMO, and I would echo what Councillor Westman said and what Lisa said. It was a good program. If I'm going to be honest, I honestly didn't see a lot of it. With my warden hat on and a number of the committees that I sit on with the warden, I had the opportunity to be involved in a number of delegations with not only sitting cabinet ministers, but also with the opposition. And certainly those are interesting conversations to be having with opposition as well. And I actually had a conversation with a colleague from Eastern Ontario. And they, as a municipality, they put in a request to meet with the opposition, because at some point they say, number one, they can use the language, they can learn what municipalities are looking for. So, when they're using language and having discussions with their colleagues, they know what's happening at a municipal level, but also there is a chance that those opposition parties may be in government one day, and again, to start setting that tone. So it may be something that we might want to consider going forward. I don't think we necessarily need to meet with them at both, Roma, Good Roads, and AMO, but we might want to consider putting in requests for delegations with them going forward. It was a different perspective. That being said, I also wanted to share a story. Of course, AMO, like every other conference, has an app, and they have a messaging app. And a fellow reached out to me, for a mayor from the municipality of Tweed. And as it turns out, he has a niece that lives in Lucan that happens to date a very good friend of one of my boys. So it was that small world connection. But he wanted to make a connection with me in that he comes to Lucan a couple times a year. So he's seen over the years the progress, the changes in the community. Wanted to congratulate us on the work that we've been able to do, not only from a housing standpoint, but from a recreation standpoint. He's watched the progress of the arena and community center, but then he's also seen the investment that we have made beyond that facility and in general in our recreation. He spoke quite highly of the state of our roads. So he really has kept a keen eye as to what we're doing. He also is very aware of the commercial development that's going on. So just wanted to congratulate us on the work that we're doing, pick my brain a little bit to say, you know, how did you do this? How did you how is it that you are enjoying the success that you are? So certainly shared a number of the stories and projects and initiatives that we've taken on. So that was a really good conversation to have, and it obviously wouldn't likely have happened if it had not been for Amos. So I was thankful for that. As I say, it was great to be back in person and, you know, see colleagues from across the province. So congratulations to London. They had their challenges, I think, with some of the infrastructure projects that they've taken on and getting people around the city. But congratulations to London. It was a good show. So that is AMO. I did have two questions. One, I was just wondering, as it is September and September 30th is not far away, was there, are we doing anything in recognition for Orange Shirt Day from a staff perspective, education? I just wondered where that was with that.
So Madam Mayor, you raise a good point, and actually I noticed it today on somebody else's correspondence. I think it was the Thames Valley District School Board. So it kind of tweaked me to, yeah, we got to do something. So leave that with me. I just got back, so I will talk with the other members of staff and see what we can come up with.
Okay, appreciate that. And then I think this is more of a question. I think it's for Lisa and Paul, and it kind of stems off, you know, the signage question, but from a communication standpoint, I know that there was an issue over the weekend with the splash pads, and just wondering if we have a communication plan in place for how to reach a member of, in this case, the Parks and Rec Department, should there be something go wrong and you're not at the arena. So if you're at the splash pad, how do I find somebody to help me with an issue that I might have?
Thank you, through Madam Mayor. A lot of our amenities in the public do have identification of ownership on them with a number 2 call, but some of them may need to be updated or checked on. So it's on our list, you know, so one of the things that we need to go through and check, especially, you know, the splash pad. That's been one of the things that since 2018, we've adjusted the hours as the climate change has been happening around here and staying warmer later, that it's pretty much been open till Thanksgiving. So we just have to make sure our signs are all up to date. And then we'll work with Lisa. I know we've been talking for some time now, but trying to have a unified branding when we do these things. So we'll be working with Lisa to develop any updates to those sites.
Just concerned that if there is a number on there, that if they phone that number, there's actually going to be somebody that picks up that phone. So appreciate that. Thank you very much. Okay, I think that is it. I didn't have anything else. Okay, there's no changes to budget. Any notices of motion? Okay, then we'll move on to our motions, and it's just the 3 bylaws in front of us that Tina referenced earlier. So the motion in front of us is that if no one cares to speak to bylaws 38-2023 through 39-2023 inclusive, and bylaw 206-2023 on the first, second, and third reading, that they be considered to have been read a first time and passed, read a second time and passed, and read a third time and passed. A mover and a seconder for that, please. Councillor Westman and Councillor Regan, all in favor? And that's carried. And a motion to adjourn our meeting at 23 minutes after 7. A mover and a seconder for that. Councillor Hodgins and Deputy Mayor Manders, all in favor, and that's carried. Thank you very much.